Hello, and welcome to another video. Today, I'll be talking about some cards from the upcoming Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle set that I'm excited to try out. This video is dropping the morning that pre-release starts, so I haven't played with any of these yet. These are just my speculations, but yeah, I'll go through the ones that I am most interested in playing and let you know what I think of them. And of course, I would love to hear which cards you're most interested in from this set as well. So make sure you leave a comment and let me know. Just a few quick notes before we get started. For this, I'll just be looking at rares and mythics from the main set to narrow things down a bit. So I won't be covering cards from the commander deck or bonus sheet for now. I'll also be looking at these through the lens of Limited and Commander, as those are the two formats that I play the most. And I'll be going through them down here, but I'm sure I'll put an overlay on the video so you don't have to worry about this. So yeah, let's jump right in. So first I noticed that there are a bunch of cards in white that distribute +1/+1 counters on each of your turns. Some of them do have restrictions like gaining life or needing to attack, but these look awesome to me. Specifically, I'm talking about Agent Bishop, Leader's Talent, Sally Pride, and Leonardo Cutting Edge. I think these look great for Limited. They're all very reasonably priced. Sally is the most expensive one to cast at 5 mana, but she wants you to have a bunch of creatures out already anyway, so that you can maximize the number of tokens she creates. I think getting an early Agent Bishop out is going to be very difficult to beat. As long as you can keep your creatures around, they'll get larger each of your turns and can probably run away with the game on their own. I think all of these look awesome for Commander as well. I know +1/+1 counters are a popular theme for Commander decks, and I think any of these can slot right in there. I especially love that Leonardo and Leader's Talent play really well together for a little flavor win there. Next, I'd love to try out Triceraton Commander. In Commander, as the name suggests, it is XX white for a 2/2 dino with flying. That makes X 2/2 dinosaurs when it enters. And when Triceraton Commander attacks, other dinosaurs you control get +1/+1 and flying until end of turn. I think this looks awesome for a dinosaur typal deck, like Pantlaza Sunfavored, or Gishath Sun's Avatar. Even if you don't pay anything into X, you still get a flying 2/2 for 2 mana. That gives your dinosaurs +1/+1 and flying each time it attacks. So yeah, I think this looks great. Another one that I'm really pumped to try out in Commander is Donatello Gadget Master. He is a 3/2 creature with Sneak for 1 and a blue. Whenever he deals combat damage to a player, you copy an artifact you control. To me, this looks really useful even if you're not in a dedicated artifact deck or even a copy or token-themed deck. Sneaking this in and copying your Soul Ring or Solemn Simulacrum seems perfectly good. Or maybe even your best equipment on the board. And if you are in an artifact deck, this gets even better. I'm sure there's a million artifacts that would be amazing to copy, like a Gear Hulk or Colossus or whatever. So yeah, I think this card is awesome. This next one I'm not sure is good so much as funny to play in Commander. It is Kitsune, Dragon's Daughter. Whenever she deals combat damage to a player, you may exchange control of 2 other target creatures controlled by different players. So I just think this might be an interesting lever to pull to mess with your Commander pod if they're open to shenanigans like that. It might make them kinda mad, but maybe it would be kinda funny to play with. Anyway, Renette, Temporal Apprentice is one that caught my eye for limited. She's a 5-mana 4/3 with Flash. When she enters, return each other non-land permanent that entered this turn to its owner's hand. This looks like a good tempo piece to have in hand for when your opponent commits to either casting a large creature or several smaller ones. Maybe you can prevent your opponent from stabilizing, or at least create an opening for your creatures by bouncing everything they played this turn and then swinging out on your turn. I feel like oftentimes with spells like these, we can bounce 1 or 2 non-land permanents, so I appreciate that this gets each one. And it would also include stuff like mutagen tokens or whatever other incidental stuff came along with their creatures. So that's good. This also looks like good protection against sneak if you can flash it in before damage is dealt, and prevent whatever effect they would gain from the sneak creature dealing damage to you. So, seems really handy. This next card is one that I am really excited to try out. We've got Madame Null, Power Broker. She's a 1/3 Death Touch creature that says, whenever another creature you control enters, you may pay life equal to its power. If you do, put that many +1/+1 counters on it. I love cards that leverage your life total as a resource. I think if this is played on curve and limited, you can just jump leaps and bounds ahead of your opponent by dropping creatures that are way above rate. I'm not entirely sure yet what the removal in this set looks like at the common and uncommon level. So this might be a bit worse if there's a lot of good removal out there. Because if they can easily kill the thing that you play, then you're trading a card for card, but then giving up a bunch of your life total, so that wouldn't be too good. But if your creatures stick around, this allows you to put much more power and toughness onto the board than your opponent at an earlier point in the game, which can be a huge advantage. I also appreciate that this is a May ability, so you're not locked into paying life into large creatures if you're not able to. So you don't have to Dark Confidant yourself. So that's good. This next one is an obvious commander card, and I'm sure a lot of people are looking at it. It is Rat King Verminister. He's a 2-mana 1/1 with Disappear. If a permanent left the battlefield under your control this turn, create a 1/1 rat token and put a +1/+1 counter on Rat King. And he has tap and sack 3 rats to return a creature card and all other cards with the same name as that card from your graveyard to the battlefield tapped. So, I think this looks good for both Limited and Commander. For Commander, it's an obvious include for decks running things like Relentless Rats, Shadowborn Apostles, Persistent Petitioners. I'm not sure what that theme is called, but anything running a lot of cards by the same name. But I think this would also be really fun to explore in Aristocrats decks, with its ability to replace a sacrificed creature on each of your turns, and also be able to fish stuff back out of the graveyard, so yeah. Next, we've got Savanti Romero. This one I think looks really strong and Limited in particular. He's a 4/4 trample for 5 mana, and at the beginning of combat on your turn, you put a +1/+1 counter on him, then draw X cards and lose X life, where X is the number of counters on him. Once again, we are leveraging life total, but for card advantage this time. And it escalates each turn. If you play him pre-combat, he immediately becomes a 5/5 and you draw a card, which is already great. And this one isn't a May trigger, but I am not at all concerned about losing too much life to this, because he should just be winning the game for you, unless you're so far behind that you can't close out in time. And it just becomes something inevitable that your opponent has to deal with if they can't allow you to keep drawing extra cards or absorb that trample damage. So you're forcing them to dump spells or creatures into this, whereas maybe you're drawing at least 3 cards off of it, so really good at draining resources from your opponent. Next up, we've got both Southwind Avatar and Super Shredder. Commander-wise, these are both things that I would consider including in Aristocrats or Sacrifice decks. The Southwind Avatar might also be fun for Toughness Matters decks, like Doran or Betor, if you want to gain a bunch of life. Super Shredder has me interested because he triggers when any permanent leaves the battlefield. So even token decks like Food or Treasure can take advantage of him. And for Limited, I would love to see Super Shredder in a Mutagen deck or Sneak deck. I think he would be excellent there. Next up is another one that I cannot wait to cast in Limited. It is Slash Reptile Rampager. He's a 5-mana 7/5 that creates a 2/2 token whenever you attack. and whenever another creature you control enters, he deals 2 damage to each opponent. This puts so much power onto the battlefield for 5 mana. I love that he can do direct damage just by casting your creatures, even if you can't attack with him to make the tokens. And 5 toughness, I think, is pretty significant. He might need to be double blocked to get taken down or blocked by a creature plus a removal spell. I think this card puts a lot of pressure on your opponent's life total on its own, and is even better if you can go wide. So, can't wait to try this one out. Leatherhead is probably one of my favorite versions of a naturalize effect that I've seen on a creature. And this is the lady version of Leatherhead here. I know this character is different depending on which era we're looking at. But anyway, to start, she's a 4-mana 5/4 trample, which is already great. Then she enters with a hexproof counter, and whenever she deals combat damage to a player, you may remove a counter from her to destroy an artifact or enchantment that player controls. So she comes equipped with a hexproof counter already, but if you have a mutagen token or some other way to get other types of counters onto her, the counter type doesn't matter for her ability. So that also means that this effect is repeatable if you can get other counters onto her as well. The trample, of course, is going to help you get through and do the damage that you need in order to use this effect. And honestly, to me, I think she's quite good even without the naturalize ability. I don't really feel like we've had to sacrifice anything to get that ability stapled onto her. I think a 5/4 trample hexproof for 4 mana is already well above rate, and I guess I'm kind of conditioned to believe that getting another ability on this creature would mean reducing stats or increasing the cost, but that really doesn't seem to be the case here. So yeah, I think this is great, even if you just run it as is, and never even need to destroy anything. Next, Michelangelo Improviser is one that I am really pumped to try out in Commander, but I think would also be quite good in Limited. He's a 4-mana 4/4 with Sneak that also costs 4, and whenever he deals combat damage to a player, you may put a creature card and or a land card from your hand onto the battlefield. So you get to cheat something into play and ramp yourself. Obviously, I think it's more optimal for Commander, because you're way more likely to have something huge or messed up in hand to put into play. Though your opponents are also more likely to have something that can deal with it before it can deal damage, but whatever. Next, we have Mutagen Man, Living Ooze. He is X green for a 2/3 with Trample. Activated abilities of artifact tokens you control cost 1 less to activate. And when Mutagen Man enters, create X mutagen tokens. So I'd love to see how this one plays in Commander decks with artifact token themes like food or maps, stuff like that. I would also love to see if mutagen tokens make an impact on +1/+1 counter decks or proliferate decks. I think this card would be really fun to explore in those themes. This next one is another where I'm not sure how good it actually is, but I am convinced it would be funny to play. It is Raph and Mikey, Troublemakers, a 7-mana 7/7 with trample and haste that, whenever it attacks, you reveal cards from the top of your library until you reveal a creature card. Put that card onto the battlefield tapped and attacking, and the rest onto the bottom. I think Gruul is the absolute perfect color pair for an effect like this. There are so many huge fun creatures that I'm sure you can find. And it's kind of a gamble because the creature enters tapped and attacking, so if it's something tiny like a Sack Elder, then it's probably not getting very far. But I can't stop thinking about hitting an Atali off of this or something absurd, so I think this would be a lot of fun to try out. And lastly, just a couple of artifacts to finish out. Of course, we have Krang, Utrum Warlord, a 9-mana 9/9, flying trample, indestructible haste, that gives other artifacts you control flying, trample, indestructible, and haste. This is super expensive to cast, but in Commander there are plenty of ways to generate enough mana for this. I think this would be really fun to even have as the commander itself, and I would especially love to see this in a go-wide token deck that can animate artifacts. That would be super fun. Alright. And then the last card for today is the Ooze. I've got my eye on this one for my Hydra Commander deck, where almost all of the creatures are made up of +1/+1 counters. I think this looks like a really cool battery of sorts to help retain those counters and then redistribute them later on. And any effects like Doubling Season or Hardened Scales go super well with this. You can kind of continue stacking counters over time as your creature's attrition. For Proliferate decks, this looks like a great way to kickstart counters onto your creatures as well. So I definitely want to experiment with this one quite a bit. And there we have it. I would love to hear your thoughts on these cards, and if there's any TMNT cards that you want to try out in any format. Let's hear it down in the comments. I would also love to know if you'll be heading out to a pre-release this weekend, and if so, are there any cards that you are hoping to get? I'll be playing on Saturday, and of course I'll have our first TMNT Crack-A-Pack video up for you on Monday, followed by a review of what I played in my pre-release on Friday. So I hope to see you there. And as always, if you enjoyed this video, please make sure you hit that like button. And please consider subscribing if you haven't already. I put out new Magic the Gathering ASMR videos every Monday and Friday. I truly appreciate all of your support, and I hope you have a wonderful day.